Hi, this is the Business Guy. In this video, we're going to talk about the Belize Trust to protect your assets from lawsuits. The Belize Trust is one of the most powerful asset protection tools in the world, and because of some recent developments, which we'll talk about later, better than the Cook Islands Trust in some circumstances, and I'm going to tell you when and why. Now, quick background, I'm the CEO of Asset Protection Planners, established in 1906, the nation's largest asset protection firm with attorneys on staff and employees nationwide. Now, to get a clear picture, to know if the Belize Trust is right for you, we first need to know what assets you have to protect. Usually, you'll want at least $500,000, sometimes as little as $250,000 or more to justify a Belize Trust. Now more about the Belize Trust and how it works and when we recommend it. Many experts agree that the strongest asset protection tool is an asset protection trust. Now we can go two ways: a domestic trust, which is often vulnerable to local courts, or an international trust, which is beyond their reach. The best options: the Belize Trust, the Cook Islands Trust, and the Nevis Trust. We talk a lot about the Cook Islands Trust on this channel, but I would not always recommend it. So here's where we would recommend the Belize Trust over the Cook Islands Trust. Recently, the Cook Islands regulators have been discouraging the Cook Islands trustee companies from accepting clients who are already in lawsuits. In addition, because of this regulatory pressure, when litigation arises, many times the Cook Islands trustee company law firms have not been doing what they're paid to do: step in as signatories on the bank accounts so that your local courts cannot order you to turn over the money. When trustees step in as signatory, the regulators say things like this to the trustees: I think you should rethink your position on that. In other words, the Cook Islands is getting more and more unlikely to do what they're being paid to do, and that's protect your assets when you need it most. Now, it didn't used to be that way, and that reluctance is the reason why, if you are already in a lawsuit, we would likely suggest the Belize Trust instead of the Cook Islands Trust or Nevis Trust, because Nevis regulators are instilling similar pressure. Now, let me make this clear. Cook Islands is still our first choice if you're not already in a lawsuit. But the nice thing is, we have options. By the way, if you have a Cook Islands Trust and the trustee is reluctant to step in these cases, we get our law firm in Belize to step in instead. The nice thing is you can switch from having a Cook Islands Trust to a Belize Trust and vice versa. So if you already have a trust in one jurisdiction, we can always switch it to another. Back to Belize. Belize, the only English-speaking country in Central America, has the strongest asset protection laws globally. Now, in all three countries we mentioned, the trust protects the assets right away. However, in the Cook Islands and Nevis, they leave the door open for 1 to 2 years if a judgment creditor wants to challenge the transfer of assets into the trust. Though the creditor is unlikely to win, in Belize, they shut the door tightly as soon as your assets are in your Belize Trust. So in Belize, there is no opportunity for your opponent to challenge the transfer. When your local courts demand your money, our Belize law firm says, no, not going to happen. You don't have jurisdiction down here in Belize. Make sense? Now, by the way, our firm has set up more offshore trusts than any other firm worldwide. So if you have an interest, feel free to reach out. Okay, here's what happens next. We set up an LLC inside of the trust. With this Belize LLC, we make you the manager. This gives you the remote control to your trust assets. Now, your bank account can be anywhere safe, such as Switzerland. When trouble hits, you temporarily transfer management of your LLC to our law firm, which is licensed and bonded, ensuring your assets are safe. So the Belize Trust is like a life insurance policy for your assets. In fact, our CPA says tax deductible, and your Belize Trust also includes estate planning. So you'll be protected from any future lawsuits, making you practically bulletproof, okay? Now keep in mind, the average business person is sued multiple times, as you can understand, right? So your Belize Asset Protection Trust not only protects you from this lawsuit, but all lawsuits in the future, making you practically bulletproof. Plus, it has estate planning built in, as we said, so your heirs inherit the money. Okay, now let's talk due diligence. Now, so your money is safe and secure, and the banks know they're dealing with the good guys and not the bad guys. The law requires us to collect for them the Know Your client information. So here's what's needed. So don't worry about writing this down because we'll get you the list if you decide to order a trust. Proof of address, like an original utility bill, credit card statement, or bank statement. Notarized photocopy of your passport. Bank reference letter. In fact, we send you an example when you order. Professional reference letter from an attorney or accountant. In fact, our attorneys can do it in-house for an extra fee if needed. And then anything else the bank requires. Now, when you do this, you'll need 2 copies of each. One goes to the bank, one to our Belize Trust Company law firm. And our customer service department walks our clients through everything step by step. You first upload all the documents, we look at it, then we ask for the originals. So that's how the due diligence works. Okay, now your real estate. Here's how the Belize Trust protects your property. For your personal residence, we put it into a land trust for privacy of ownership. Keeps your name out of the public records. All the other properties we put into separate land trust, and then for legal protection, we make U.S. LLCs in that state where the property is located the beneficiary of each land trust. We set up an LLC in Wyoming to be the trustee of those trusts. So when there's a lawsuit on that property, it doesn't take every property like a bunch of dominoes. The land trust gives you privacy. The LLCs put each property into separate cubby holes. Then you own your U.S. LLCs that hold your real estate in your Belize LLC that's inside of your trust. Now, U.S. courts can take U.S. real estate. So we do what's called equity stripping. 2 steps. First, we take your Belize LLC that's inside of your Belize trust, and that LLC will record equity line of credit mortgages against each property. So to the outside world, it looks mortgaged to the hilt, but these are equity credit lines, so no money changes hands. So these are loans payable to your own company, so you're not going to foreclose on yourself. Okay, so far? Second, and this is needed only about 1% of the time, we have a third-party lender who purchases the liens and puts the proceeds into your Belize trust. Now, this is not money you can run away with and spend. That's too risky to the lender, but it shows the judge the loans are payable to a third-party lender and that you receive the proceeds in your trust. Want the liens taken off in the future? Simply ask the trustee. You with me? Now, when you set up a Belize Asset Protection Trust, you'll sleep like a baby because nobody can touch you. Know why people call us? Peace of mind, right? That's what it is, peace of mind. So when you combine that with one of the strongest legal tools in the world, the most trusted jurisdiction for banking, Switzerland, backed by our company that's been around since 1906, our clients sleep like babies knowing their money is safe and secure. And believe me, the only problem they have is that they didn't do it 6 months ago because they'd already be in great shape. So the true beauty is it puts you in control by putting your assets beyond the reach of the local courts. And that way, you get to decide rather than some judge who's been brainwashed by your opponent into thinking you're a monster. It puts you in the driver's seat. Then when you take all of this together and combine them, you'll sleep like a baby for the rest of your life, knowing nobody can ever take your money away from you again. Okay, so what are the downsides? What's the worst possible thing that can happen? Let's say they don't take all of your assets. Let's say you win the lawsuit. Honestly, is the small cost of protecting yourself, about 20 or 30 grand, going to put you in the poorhouse? Honestly, no, it's not going to destroy your life. On the upside, if this could be thought of as an upside, if they do win, instead of freezing and seizing all of your assets, you set this up and you don't lose a dime. You'll be very, very thankful you did it now, won't you? Exactly. It's not going to make you poor, and when you protect yourself, you'll keep everything you work so hard for. And not only that, since you probably have your money invested, you protect what your assets could be worth in the future. Plus, what this setup will also do is protect yourself from lawsuits down the road. And by the way, what it does for you, besides this protection in the way of estate planning, is this setup will transfer your assets to your loved ones after your passing. So on top of the best asset protection in the world, it also handles your estate planning, and our clients are very, very happy, and the only thing they regret is they didn't do it 6 months ago. Okay, so how much does this cost? It's almost like asking, okay, what does a car cost? It really depends on what assets you have to protect. As of this video, it costs in the 20 to 30 grand range, plus whatever it costs to protect any additional assets that you have. So it really depends on your situation. Then we have other options for people with less or more assets to protect. Is it expensive? Sure it is. So is losing everything you own, right? Like Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, says on our homepage, consider this as a form of insurance. Take a tiny fraction of what you have to protect and protect everything you have so you can sleep like a baby at night, right? About every state in America can't even drive a car without insurance, right? So you have to pay for it. We're not just talking about your car, but your entire life savings. So if you're already in a lawsuit, the Belize Trust is a perfect tool so you can act while you still can. So let me ask you this. If you're in a lawsuit, what's going to happen if you don't do anything at all? If you don't take action to fix your problem, you just stick your head in the sand. If you're being sued right now, given how things have likely deteriorated over the last several months, where do you see yourself in another year from now or 5 years from now if you don't do anything to protect yourself? Are things going to get even more intense, more sleepless nights, more worrying, like this physician who called us not long ago and he formed a mobile CAT scan business with another doctor? The business didn't work out so well and the partner sued him and he was confident that he would win the lawsuit. But instead, he lost and got a huge judgment. Now, fortunately, he had to set up an offshore trust and he called us on the phone with tears in his eyes thanking us because he would have lost nearly everything that he worked for. Because he had his assets inside of an offshore trust, his partner couldn't touch a penny of his assets. So if you've been sued but don't have a judgment, we have a small window of opportunity to protect you before the courts could freeze your assets, and then there's nothing we can do. So the key thing is to do something now while we still can, right? So if you're concerned about the lawsuit seizing your assets and worried about where that leaves you 9 months from now, a year from now, if you don't do anything, if you didn't protect yourself, like we had this one lady who kept scratching her head, calling us back 8 times, and on her last call, she said the court just froze her assets like we warned her. Nothing we could do. So right now, if you're in litigation and you haven't had your assets frozen yet, you have a small window of opportunity to do something about it. The question we ask our prospective clients is, don't you think we should act now before they freeze your assets too, like they did this lady? Right now, you have a choice, and once the judge gets involved, he's going to yank that choice away from you. So the lesson here is you ought to make that choice for yourself now while you still can. Judges have a lot of power. Either you make the choice now or the judge will make the choice later. We have a saying in the asset protection industry, if you delay, then you will pay. Either you make the right choice for yourself now or the judge will make the wrong choice for you later. Make sense? So that's what the Belize Trust is, and that's when we recommend it. For more free information, visit assetprotectionplanners.com. Subscribe for more. This is The Business Guy.